So, welcome back. We are on episode 5 of the Eric Z podcast. Uh, I go by the name of Eric Zamora. I'm with Rainey and Associates Realty. Very excited for today. We're doing a special remote episode with a very special guest. I think when I first caught wind of what he was up to, some of the initial posts I would see online talked about. Um, Comfortable home, energy efficient, um, climate, all of these topics so relevant to today. So I was so intrigued to get him onto the podcast so that we could dive a bit more deeper into this. So without further ado, wanted to welcome Brett Gilmour. How you doing,
Eric,
bud?
thanks for this. Thank you.
Awesome. So Brett's joining us from Nanaimo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right on. And so I've known Brett for a few years now, quite a long time actually, and really exciting to see what he's up to now. But before we dive into that, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background? What were you doing before this new exciting endeavor? You know, who is Brett Gilmore?
Yeah. Well, I'll go back a little bit because to where I actually met you at Credential Financial. So I worked for a financial company for 10 years, about doing a lot of different things there. And Eric worked with you before you went off to be into the real estate game and doing your thing, which you're doing great at. So I
Thank you.
was there for 10 years and helped kind of edge towards building the online platforms, the online trading platforms, and things like that. So it really became the tech side of things. I love that. And then from there, I really wanted to work in tech more deeply and in product. And so I went places where that was kind of a core focus. And I found myself at Pay by Phone. I was at Pay by Phone, which, everyone in
Yeah.
Vancouver knows that app very well. It's, love it, hate it. It's a great app in some ways. And uh, I still use it all the time. So
Pretty
that
sure
for two
we
and a half years.
all love it.
Yeah.
We all love it. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Lived 2.5 years, learned a lot, did a lot of great stuff. But ultimately wanted to move on something a little more interesting than parking. Parking kind of got a little mundane for me, and so I kind of went to the opposite side. And I found myself in music, still working in tech, doing product management, and spent 3 years working for a music tech company out of Vancouver called Plain PE. It's kind of a
Okay.
smaller, not known unless you're a music label. So basically, my background for a long time has been in tech and product development. So building apps, building website, building services and businesses. Um, and yeah, I guess so that's kind of where I come from. Also from Pemberton, BC, very small town just north of Whistler. So that's kind of me in a high level.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so it sounds like very well-rounded sort of a career up until this point. Um, and now you're basically involved with a new startup, which the name of the company is Homeo, but I understand that there's also an exciting merger happening with a company called Patio. And so, what can you tell us about what is the story behind Homeo, which is the company you started?
Yeah. So I've always really been sustainability, climate focused to some degree in my life. And actually, that's why I went to Credential Financial way back after I graduated from university, is because of ethical funds. I'm like, oh, they help to improve sustainability and do all these great things via investing, which was my other, that's what I graduated with, a degree in finance. So I could merge my sustainability and climate passions and work in finance. So I've always kind of had that. Um, and for a long time, I've been interested in the built space, the building space. I love being DIY, hobbyist stuff, build furniture, and do all these things like building stuff. And a few years ago, I bought a condo, my very first condo, and had extremely leaky windows. The windows were atrocious. I could almost see through the gap in some of the windows. And that was part of the condo exterior. And as you know, that's kind of Strata property. So emailing Strata, telling these things, trying to get it fixed, because I just really hated me heating the great outdoors and so inefficient. And the high energy bills for one, but just like that idea of waste just really irked me. Um, and at that same time, I was also really interested in transitioning my career to climate. I've been actually trying to do that for over a year, 2 years now. I've been really trying to do product and climate, and trying to do that. But it's not a great time with the market right now. You know, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, maybe better. But for whatever reason, I haven't found a job working in climate. So I decided to do my own thing in climate. So basically created it. So that's where Homeo came in because I saw this opportunity, and the opportunity actually isn't brand new novel idea I pulled out of the ether and like had this master idea. There's actually a couple companies in the US that are doing it right now, and doing it well and are much more mature than what we have in Canada for these services. But the reality is every country needs these services to help people improve the energy efficiency of their homes. And the company, just for reference, because this might be interesting, is called sealed.com. I actually applied for a job there in product and didn't get it. But I was really like, this is cool. I love it. I love what you're doing. I love the model. It makes so much sense. Everyone needs to do this. It's like we just need this as a society. And so it's kind of been bugging me for over a year. Then I had an opportunity, or actually I laid off in January from my day job and had some time in my hand. And so I'm like, you know what? I want to work in climate. I love this idea that Sealed's been doing. And I really want to test out if I can do this in Canada, and bring that model, adapt it for Canada for what Canadians need, the Canadian government, the programs, and all these things. And I happen to also just buy a new home in Nanaimo. I just moved to Nanaimo in January. So it was almost a really good opportunity. So now I have this house which has very dated heating systems and insulation and a
Right.
lot of things. It was kind of a ripe project for me to kind of dig into. So I've been, as the term says, eating my own dog food in the startup world. Where basically right away I've been going through the process of doing all the retrofits for home energy efficiency, and at the same time taking those learnings and applying it to like the business Homeo. So that's really the foundation of it: opportunity, long love for climate and sustainability, and then just falling in love with that model that I saw in Sealed and wanting really badly to bring it to Canada, and just help out Canadians, the bigger picture, etc. Like it's pretty vast.
Yeah, interesting. So you started Homeo. What it sounds like is the mission ultimately was like, would it be correct in saying the mission was on a high level to bring more awareness to Canada, because it sounds like it's well known in the States, but not necessarily over here. Um, and was that sort of like your initial, I guess, objective and mission by starting this company?
Yeah, exactly. And I probably haven't clarified exactly what Homeo and or patio is. So if anyone, apologize, I probably should have defined that. So what it is basically, and this model is basically a company which is kind of like a concierge service is kind of a term which I hear other people describe it as, so I will go with that too. That helps you get from you knowing you want to either lower your energy bills, improve climate efficiency, or reduce your emissions, or you just want to increase the comfort of your home, to all the way through the processes, through the grants and the trades and all the work, and getting the rebates, etc. To the very end, and it's a big track. It takes a long time, and it's a challenging road. So really helping using my product and tech background of building processes and systems to make that simpler and easier and shorter, hopefully. So that's really the opportunity I saw. And I thought I had all the tools to do that. I'm, uniquely qualified as a product manager to build these things, and then plus the passion for the space. And
Okay. So would you say that it's sort of like a consulting sort of form of service where you're providing all of the guidance and doing all the legwork in terms of what your specific home would need to accomplish these goals?
yeah, consulting is a good word. There's actually a few analogies. Another way I think about it is like a very specialized general contractor. I'm by no means a general contractor. I don't have any of those skills. I have a lot of respect for those people. But what I'm building is specialization in a very niche set of things where I want to have the same kind of approach a general contractor has, where I may not be on site hammer in hand doing things as much. But what I'm doing is that overview of the project and helping to make the decisions which align to the goals of the project and helping. So it's a little more hands on, is kind of where I'm getting at, where we really want to provide here's the reasons why we're going to go this way because you want to accomplish these goals one, two, and three. And based off what we've learned about, so far, here's how we can evolve this plan or create a plan or roadmap for you to kind of achieve that, and we'll help you do that, and we'll tackle these steps. And there's a few things actually um, where it's actually very hands-on in some way. And I think it's ultimately what's needed. So I can tell you why. So this is kind of the big punchline for the scope of the problem. So I'm also very big into climate, and if you're familiar with all the net zero 2050 goals that a lot of the countries have ratified, including Canada, those are pretty aggressive emission targets for 2050. Um, from that comes all these reports, and one of the reports I read said in the home energy retrofit space alone, currently about 1.7% of inventory is retrofitted every year for energy efficiency. If we stay at this current rate, it's going to take us 142 years to retrofit all these homes and help us reach our 2050 goal. Doing the math, it's about 38 years, 142 years. So we have to really condense that. So think of 1.7%. There's actually a kind of like a 10x is kind of in my mind, just a roughly 10x the rate at which people complete retrofits. So how would we do that is kind of my thought process. And really, if we have people like making a lot of decisions, the cumbersome, like trade A, trade B, doing these things, we just need a very simple process where we have a lot of these things already figured out. We can push people through really efficiently, and kind of scale is a word I'll use from the product world and tech world. We need to figure out a way to scale it. And so basically being more hands-on is really the only way to do that. I think maybe I'll learn something and we find a balance where it's not as hands-on, but more just like a really good guiding system. But it's my assumption right now, it needs to be really hands-on.
Right. So it sounds like it sounds like a huge undertaking to do like a, retrofit of your home to these, I guess, standards. So I guess your company, would you say the benefit is that um, just even knowing where to start, or where to even look, and how to even find out what's the correct way to do this, um, that sounds like where your company would come into play, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, there's two ways. One is people just have no clue where to start, or two, they start doing themselves and like, okay, now I'm overwhelmed and I got lost, or I'm stuck on something and how do I even move forward? And there's services for people to work through that. But it's kind of like this is a new analogy, so bear with me if this is terrible.
Okay.
But I was kind of thinking of it the other day, and I was thinking almost like, to some regard, like a fitness trainer. You still have to do work, you still have to go through things, but I'm in there helping you make the plan, keeping you accountable. I'm bringing things on. Maybe I bring some other people in to help out, and that's where kind of the trades come in.
Right.
It's maybe more of a really advanced fitness trainer because it needs a team fitness trainer to bring other like specialists in and whatnot. But someone who's really keeping everything moving and has a goal and keeping accountable. Because if we were trying to do all that ourselves as human beings, we'd probably cheat or take slack days or just not be as motivated or maybe skip some days, or you know what I mean? Like, so
Sure.
I think just apathy is a real thing. We have to acknowledge that, and it's hard. And so we need help as humans to do some things
Yes.
and get through to reach our goals for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Plan of action, right? And
Yeah,
having having a plan from the get-go so that, you don't lose time either, and
totally.
things kind of move away smoothly. Awesome. So okay, so when what's the current like setup of your company now? Like when did you get going? When did you start it up, and where are you now? It sounds like you're with this exciting merger with Patio, which maybe you can tell us a little bit more about Patio.
Yeah. So I'll give you a bit of the history. So in January, I was laid off. By late January, I was starting work on this, and trying to build it, and just doing little things here and there, and poking at it. Um,
Yeah.
March probably had something in place where I was actually trying to get people to go to this Homeo landing page, and I was posting and trying to build a little bit of awareness about it, see if I can actually build some traction with it, where people interested, where they actually go through the processes and actually sign up. And it had some okay traction so far. But through a lot of my activity and doing research and poking on some of the other channels I'm a community member of and whatnot, I met these guys out of Toronto, and they ran Patio. And Patio um, is by nature actually a bit broader in scope. It's kind of a home management system. Um, think of it like that. So kind of like the filing cabinet for your entire home with the services and trades, and kind of Carfax for your home is a way to think about it. Like all the information is stored in your home in
Mm-hmm.
one central spot, which is also very valuable because if you have a plumber in, and they're like, oh, why was this like this? Oh, let's just go and pull those records up, and company X a while ago did this, and here's the notes and all this stuff, and it's all
Ah, right.
traceable. Um, and it's kind of a nice traceable record if you ever sell your home or have other trades or want to do other work. It's all there for you. Um,
Right.
but what they really realized is the opportunity for them was that this retrofit space kept coming up, and how this was this big timely or timely problem to be solved, and also is kind of a good way to bring people to awareness of this type of tool, and tools for the home in general, which I don't have. We don't have a lot of tools for homes, unfortunately, or any good ones in this capacity. So they really started going down this track too, and then we figured out we're both doing the same thing. And they're in the climate retrofits. They're also passionate about the climate. It's not just because this was a good thing, but they're also very passionate about climate. And we realized that our values completely aligned. Passion for climate. They actually had two people there with very decorated actually uh, credentials, and really like really inspiring people. And one of them, Luke, he's a dev and can do a lot of the work, which I don't have that skill. I need help
Yeah.
the developers to actually build stuff and do stuff. And he's just generally brilliant. And then Aldo, our the CEO, he has a really brilliant background. Worked at Meta. He was the CEO of a insurance, or actually a real estate company, Justo, which is on Ontario a while back, but they're no longer in operation. So he has this really great background, and he has all these things. So we had a really good synergy of complementary skills, shared passion, and so we decided just it's so hard to make these things work as it is with one person. I
Sure.
thought if we could join up, maybe it gives a better chance of reaching our goals, maybe a better chance of helping more people out. So here we are, and we are a bit in the twine in the merger right now, but um, Patio, PADDIO.ca, I'm sure we'll link it,
Yeah.
is live. It's been updated recently. It has all the newest stuff. So it's really I'm pushing everyone to now is Patio, and Homeo is there, but it's kind of it's kind of an archive state now, but I'm keeping it there just for whatever reason. But Patio is what we're pushing now.
Wow. Interesting. So, was that that you just happened to meet them randomly? Like, or did you have
Cool.
some
It was an online community. So I'm in this group called Work on Climate, and they basically help people
okay.
who want to find jobs in climate work there. And I've been on that. It's this big Slack group, and I've been there for
Okay.
over a year now. And there was a great community, and I just asked a few questions. There's a Canada channel, so you can ask other Canadians. And I was trying to mine some information about retrofit data, and just information about that, and asking a few things. And through that, me posting, all those also on there, because again, he's in the space and loves climate. He said, "Hey, we should probably chat. We're doing something very similar." And so we had a couple chats and realized we were doing almost the exact same thing, from a bit of a different angle, but that's really how it happened. Just online chat.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love it. The universe spoke, I guess,
Yeah.
and you guys collided. So let's say I'm somebody, I've been thinking about doing this retrofit for my home. Um, I don't know if this is early or not, but oh, how would your services, I guess, how do you envision those services to work for the client? Is it something where they would have some sort of a selection of packages? Would it be like an upfront fee they pay for the consultation? Um, how exactly would somebody go about it if they wanted to utilize your services?
Yeah. I'll be totally honest, we are still working out the business model of it. So we have some like hypotheses about what will work best. Some of the ones have been most recommended to me from some of the chats I've had. Others who kind of work in the building construction space think that like a flat fee, like I don't know, $200, $300, plus a percentage of the actual work being done would be best. But we kind of still have to validate that. I don't know for sure. But what I can tell you
Okay.
is that we're offering services for free right now, just for learning and
Oh,
trying to get volume through the door. So that's really good. So if you just want it and you want someone to do a bunch of work for free, pretty good. Now, I won't always be doing that, but for the time being, it's August 14th right now. So maybe a few more months, we'll offer it for free until we get enough volume through and feel confident enough about the business model. Um, Money's not the big concern yet.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah. So when you say free, it's kind of like the where you're providing the guidance of
the
how to go
coaching
about it,
and
the
the service.
coaching, the resources,
My
how to,
our time, basically, our times and services. There's definitely still a lot of costs with the actual work itself, right?
right.
That's really why this is so important because it's all big ticket items. Heat pumps can be anywhere from 5,000 to mine was 28,000. I had to do a bunch of work to make it work here. So that's a really big ticket item. That's not a small purchase.
Right.
Windows, oh my God, like Windows can be massive if you're going big, especially if you get super high quality Windows can be. One of my quotes was for nearly $100,000 for my home for Windows. These are not every. It's a very big. That's like the best Windows, and I was curious to see what it would I get from really great Windows and do my entire house, which is like 26 windows, but and two sliding glass doors. But it's big ticket items. People need a lot of thought and conscious effort and planning to make these smart financial decisions because it's not a casual thing. It's pretty. Um, it's heavy and not everything is happening right away. So what kind of figured out is there's almost a roadmap is a term we use because not everything may be day one. Maybe it's,
Hmm.
this has to happen. And so maybe in 3 years, we think about doing the next phase of the project or in 5 years, the next phase. And that's okay. Um, we want to make, because everyone has their own budget and timeline. So we have to, honor that and do what works for them.
Right. So it sounds like your mission with this with it looks like been very clear to you from the start. Um, when you were getting this going, was there any sort of challenges or that you can think of or setbacks along the way that were sort of you had to endure through during this kind of startup phase? What would you think is the most challenging part?
Generally, startups are super scary. There's a lot of unknowns, a lot of things. And technically, this is a new domain for me. I'm not a builder by trade. I'm not a general contractor. I think if I was a general contractor or maybe a heat pump installer by like, I had that knowledge and worked for those companies for X number of years, I'd be a different view of things. But I was really crash course learning so many things and just using my time to, most of my time was learning. I just
Hmm.
trying to get the essence of what I need to know. And I still have a lot to learn, but I think I have the broad strokes in place now, which is one of the big challenges. The other big challenge is I think it's the big challenge. It's the market's big challenge. It's the world's big challenges. Is how do we get people to basically act? Action is the enemy. Inaction is the enemy here. Because we have climate goals. We have a roadmap of how to get there. We know what we need. The technology's all here. It's literally now, can we get people to go through the process? That's our challenge, which is an action challenge. And talking with people, everyone's like, "Oh yeah, we should talk. I totally want to do that." Like, yeah, I really like. I need to. And then crickets, right? Stops.
Right.
That's really common. It's probably common in sales in general, but people, the will is there. They want to do it. They have the values, or they just want to save on money or on their energy bills, or they just want to improve the comfort of their home. Any one of those things could be true, but just getting anybody from there to start acting, or even to the very end of the line, is that's really the biggest challenge. And so I think what I'm really focused on now and spend a lot of time going down the wrong path is around lead generation and education awareness. I think that's the biggest challenge we have as a country and globally right now. And there's lots of stuff like BC Hydro is always about heat pumps, and there's a lot of things happening, but it's not enough. We need way more. We need way, way, way more stuff. Talking about this and making it really important, and how, in order for us to meet 2050 goals, everyone has to start doing this stuff when we can. And unfortunately, like, unless I'll just elaborate this a bit, because I think it's people will resonate with this. Unless my heater is going, I'm not thinking about replacing for a heat pump. Or unless my windows are, I guess people live with bad windows for a long time.
Hmm.
Or unless something catastrophic happens, I'm not thinking about that. Or it's a tomorrow's problem kind of thing, right? Which it makes sense, and I totally recognize that. And that's very practical. Like, we have to be reasonable with our money and whatnot. But with the government grants and rebates, it's kind of it makes that not really a problem. So government's done a great job of adding a lot of grants, rebates, tens of thousands of dollars for instant money back, plus $40,000 in interest-free loans over 10 years to help
Mm.
any cost finance that out. So as you realize the cost savings from operating that, you can basically make that almost a null game,
Right.
where it's having a way not free, but it's pretty close, plus or minus a few years. So
Right
yeah,
on.
in action challenge. I'll give you because I think you asked a specific story. So one of the things I think I realized or challenges is I'm like naively I was like, you know what? I'm coming from big tech background, and I think I can run ads and do this and dominate and like do really well, and I'll do really clever ads and do these things and get all this traction. And I had nothing. And then I accidentally, like, Google sends you these like, oh, try this and do this and optimize the thing. Okay, cool, yeah, try that. Didn't really realize what I was actually doing, but it basically was opening my bid to be any bid for ads. And if anybody is aware, like, basically I said spend what you want, Google, and I got great traction. I started my numbers going through the roof, a lot of clicks. I got my bill. I'm like, oh, turn this off, turn it off. That's so much money. I can't afford this right now. And it
Right.
actually turn into people coming through the door and actually wanting work, to do any retrofits. What actually has been working so far is like pretty basic word of mouth, feet on, like, boots on the ground, pretty much like door to door type marketing, like sale, like the very basic stuff works the best for this kind of, I think, very emotional and large size project.
Sure. So with putting all of us into action, what would you say what would you say is one tip that you could leave with us that, is not a huge mountain to climb, but it's a tip that would get us all going, and not too much of an investment, but it sort of sets the tone for maybe doing a bigger retrofit in the future.
Yeah. There's something everyone can do, and I told you the story of back in my condo in Burnaby. I could basically see through the windows and spots, and that's kind of windows, but it's kind of a larger thing is air sealing. In the company I
Yes.
referenced out of the US called Seal.com, that's how they started out. They were just doing sealing. So sealing is literally just like caulking some tapes or weather strips and whatnot. So if you go around your house, if you recaulk, and this you probably need to do it almost every 10, 15 years, no matter what. So it hasn't, you haven't done it in a while. Go around, recaulk your windows. There's lots of YouTube videos on good types of caulk to use for interior, exterior. But go around your whole exterior wall, all the windows outside, and just fill the holes with caulking. Do your windows and or siding doors. Refresh some of the strips. Just really pay attention to that. Because it's pretty cost effective. You can go to Home Depot, buy most of the stuff for a few $100, and you're really kitted out to do everything. And spend a couple Saturdays just doing that, and that's actually one of the bigger things you can do for return on investment. Like it's almost instant return on investment from what you're doing, and you'll notice that your home is much cozier, depending how bad it is. But the typical home will actually see a pretty good boost from that right away.
So are you starting on the caulking on the outside, just to clarify, on the outside of the
Oh,
house? Both.
yeah, you want
Okay.
to do window frames. Go around each window, see the window frame, and you want to make sure there's a nice seal there, because over time the seals and windows will go, and all the exterior stuff. Like I'm pointing my window, you can't see my window, but um, basically look at the whole frame against the drywall, but also where the window trim touches the actual window frame on the inside, that touch point, and also on the outside, window sealing with exterior caulking, and just going anywhere else you see holes. They call it penetrations. Anywhere your exterior is penetrating, or being penetrated by a window or by a hose bib or electrical outlet, those are all areas where air and bugs and moisture can seep through. So you definitely want to. It's actually just good home maintenance, but kind of often forget about that.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
I would agree. That probably is one of the more least, the lesser cost effective, I mean, sort of more cost effective
yeah,
things to do because it's not going to cost you a whole lot to get the supplies.
yeah. Maybe some
Just
expanding
some
foam
time.
with some big gaps, but yeah, that's about it.
Awesome. Great. So, where can we, I guess, find you to possibly utilize these services eventually? What would we go to the patio.ca website?
Patio.ca is live and ready for a free energy report. So if you go in and click a few buttons, it'll give you a little bit of a survey and takes a bit of information. It is pretty simple. It's not really sophisticated, but it'll give you the bare bones of if you have an 80s house with double pane windows and et cetera, et cetera. It'll kind of say, oh, well, here's the retrofit packages, like the things you can do, the upgrades. And it also tells you how much grants are potentially available and grants and
Wow,
rebates are potentially available for it. Yeah.
very cool.
So you get a quick little sense of like, oh, there's some savings there. And then plus me, it tells about the $40,000 loan. Just give you a bit of education about that. Like when you start looking at that, you may think, oh, I can do this. Maybe I can actually achieve this.
Right. Wow, I'm excited. I'm gonna check that out right after this.
Yeah.
Um, so lastly, you know, you're basically at the start of your startup right now. Is there any advice you would give to an entrepreneur right now that is thinking about doing a startup? What's a little bit of wisdom you would give them before they started that idea?
Um, Having a product background, I think a lot about this anyways. And there's kind of this one truism, which anyone doing a startup should think about. And it's really how I did Homeo to begin. Thought, how can I test this out as inexpensively as possible? So how I spend a little money, build some sort of skeleton of a service, and see if people will do some action. It tells me there's a demand there or that people really want to use this. And so in my case, I set up a website using Webflow, which is kind of a very inexpensive web builder, and put up like kind of a one-page site, had some buttons to click and fill out a form. And I get notified if you submit it, and that's all it was. It's just basically a simple thing. So test it out before you go and build a big app and build all these things, or build a big service, or invest in incorporating and all these things like that. So start as small as you can with the smallest test. Really, you have an hypothesis or an assumption. You want to say, how can I validate that? And that's kind of the product answer, but I'm a product manager by trade, so I can't help it.
Right on. That
Yeah.
is, yeah, that's sound advice for sure. So thank you so much for all of this wealth of information. I think everybody needs to go check out patio.ca to take advantage of that free energy report. Um,
Yeah,
and uh, and yeah, just wanted to thank you as well for joining me. I've known you for so long now. I always knew, you were a big ideas guy, and it was really great to see uh, this come to light when I caught wind of it just recently. So congratulations on all your success, and can't wait to see Patio be the main sort of source of retrofits for Canada, right?
that'd be fantastic. And thank you.
Awesome. All right. Take care.